Henry Emeka says the New Zealand government should have allowed vaccinated people in since that's what they really want, than closing the border for too long. I believe things will be cool and better. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's hard to kind of comment on what they should have done. Like shoulda, woulda, coulda is always like, it's a hard thing to say. But the other thing to keep in mind is that even during the current outbreak that we're having right now, right, we had over 100 people which have contracted COVID, but that were already vaccinated. It's not 100% foolproof, right? No vaccine is. And so for this reason, it's still allowing a risk in. And also since there is already a lot of stories, especially in the US, of people fudging like the vaccine passports and all those kind of things, and having like fake vaccine cards to go into bars and everything like that. I think that since there is not even a standardized option just yet, and actually the US government has said that they didn't want to have a standardized option, at least nationally. They will do something internationally, but nationally they don't want to put rules of like you have to have this exact certificate and everything like that. It's kind of tough to kind of allow that, because then you have to cater for like every single country's different kind of ways to deal with that. And so again, with such a small nation, New Zealand, the amount of resources available to us is minimal. Like we only have, and it's not a joke, we will only have a team of like 10 or 20 people working on that. That is basically what we can allocate, right? So we only have that small amount of people to work on all those different processes and bylaws and new rules and all these kind of things. And so we just don't have the capacity to be able to organize that. So I think that as much as it is, a matter of like, oh, we don't want anyone coming to New Zealand because they may have COVID or any of that. It's also like, how can we implement this? We just don't have the manpower to do that just yet. Or woman power. I am not, pun. But yeah, so there is also that to keep in mind as well, right? So you have to understand that it's not just we are being super strict, it's also we're also working with the constraint that we currently have, i.e. how much people can work on things and how much budget can we allocate on those things in order to sort it out. So until we have like something really standardized worldwide that New Zealand can tag along, and therefore that saves a lot of the manpower, you just have to say, well, we part on that program, and then most of the work has been done. There's still a little bit of work, obviously, but most of the work has been done. Then that's something that we can allow ourselves to do. And we've done that in the past, like in a lot of different things. We just tagged along into some projects and everything like that. And I think that this is kind of going to be our approach, because we have and it's kind of hard to say that way, but we kind of have the luxury of time, since we control the outbreak quite a lot. There's not too crazy of an emergency, and obviously a lot of tourism business in New Zealand, which was the largest industry in the country before COVID, including our business as well. We definitely are feeling that there is kind of a bit of, there is no luxury of time. There is a bit of a time pressure, but when it comes down to like the New Zealand government side of things, well, they see it as we have the luxury of time, so let's do things well and well in the first time. That's just going to be my take on that. Obviously, it's only my opinion, and it's just based on news stories that I've seen. It's not based on the actual fact. I just want to make that really clear why it's not misinformation. I think it's just what I'm seeing and the way I'm interpreting. Yeah, I think the actions of the government currently. So yeah, but you guys are more than welcome to pitch in. Obviously, your input is also kind of valuable within this discussion right here, and like the two people in front of a stupid camera setup that we have right here. But it's kind of that's how we're seeing it at the moment for now. Henry and Mika keep going and says because they're just frustrating people and make money from visitors from tourism. Yeah, so yeah, they are frustrating people that are working in tourism. They are, but on the other hand, I feel like if COVID-19 would have taken a really big toll, and we will have lost some people, because I think in New Zealand also we are running the risk to lose much more people per capita than we will have in other countries, such because the amount of health facility that we have is not really big, right? So I think we will cope well, and I know some countries are coping pretty badly, right? But I think that we will cope well worse than a lot of other developed countries if we had an absolute major outbreak, because we really don't have that many ICU beds and everything like that. So, and also you have to look as well as at the long-term effect of COVID, right? Like it's not just, okay, people are going to get COVID and then, some people are going to die and everything like that, right? But you also have to realize that every single time one person gets COVID, it takes that many hours, let's say 10, and I'm making up numbers, right? But let's say it takes 10 hours out of a doctor's time, right? During these 10 hours, he could have done 10 one-hour consultation for someone that has cancer or any other things, right? So those people are going to stay with those conditions for longer. They're not going to get treated. And therefore, those people are going to get sicker. And therefore, so it's kind of a snowball effect, right? You don't just have the COVID thing to see. You have the whole health system to see as well. I think that there's going to be an impact of COVID which is going to be extremely long-lasting on people which have had to delay treatment for other illnesses, and therefore this is going to make those illnesses worse, and it's going to cost more to solve or even be less solvable, and therefore this is going to have those costs as well. So we need to keep that in mind as well. So I obviously a lot of tourism businesses, and some tourism businesses are closing. It's kind of a daily thing that we hear, right? And especially at NZ Pocket Guide, we get press release and all those kind of things where we know we have to remove some businesses from the website. For example, there is a fantastic bar and restaurant that we feature on New Zealand's biggest gap here. We're wearing Fox Glacier, called the Bigfoot Bar and Restaurant. You can see us have awesome pizzas over there with some mates of ours. Well, sadly closed this week, and they're selling all their chattels and everything. So it does have a toll on other things. But if you look at the long-term aspect of things, I think it is going to put New Zealand in a good position. And I think that the current frustration that people are going to feel is not going to outweigh the attractiveness of a country like New Zealand. I think that's what they're banking on. Obviously, it's very opinionated what I just said right here, but yeah, I think that's the gamble that the authority are taking. Anything you want to add? No?
I think you've talked enough about that.
So Henry said, you both are really doing a nice job, and I appreciate, and I believe also others appreciate. Thanks. We love you guys. Oh, that's very nice.
Thank you.
Yeah, so obviously everything I just said was opinions, right? And that may be wrong, and I technically would like to be wrong, right? We do run a New Zealand tourism business here. We technically would like travelers to come tomorrow, right? It would be better for us. Yeah. But we also, sometimes you kind of have to look at the glass half full, otherwise you
and there's also although there are people in the tourism industry that are frustrated at the moment, there are also public opinion has been kind of people, the majority of sort of the population in New Zealand, there's been a lot of studies and a lot of polls and stuff, and a lot of people are happier with the way that it was handled during the pandemic. So yeah, although there are I think the tourism businesses are kind of considered a minority when it comes to the sort of how people feel about how COVID was handled.
Yeah, let's not forget that there was a national election during COVID, and the Labour government got their biggest victory ever in history, right? So they got a mandate to keep doing what they were doing. So let's not forget that they, by the result of the poll, got the support of the people big time. So let's not forget about that as well.